As being a 3D artist, we got the chance to explore a lot of things. And today, we're gonna have a random discussion. And today, I'm joined by one of my good friends and the best 3D artist I know in my friend circle, Mr. Taimur Ali. How are you doing, Taimur?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm also doing good. So, Mr. Taimur, how did you got into 3D?
I mean, it's a long story. Does it really matter?
Well, I mean, it does. Because we have our own story to tell, like how we got into 3D. I mean, my whole journey was a mess, if I'm gonna be honest. Because I was a VFX artist first, then I became a graphic designer, then I became a colorist, and then I became a 3D artist.
Hmm.
So, how was it like for you?
I mean, I was exploring, it was 2019, and I
Mhm.
was exploring different skills to get into freelance mainly.
Mhm.
Then I discovered the donut tutorial by Blender Guru,
Mhm.
which I tried on my potato laptop. At
Pause.
that time,
Just pause. Did you complete the donut?
no.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
I tried the donut tutorial like 3 times in total, but never completed it.
So, what did the donut tutorial teach you?
It got me interested in 3D.
Mhm.
So I discovered more about it and learned about product rendering and animation.
Mm.
In the beginning, I was focusing mainly on product rendering because my PC couldn't support animation.
Mhm.
And as I got better hardware, I slowly got into animation as well.
Mm. Since your line of work consists of product animation and product rendering mainly, right?
hmm
Do you think Amazon is a viable market for you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, have you ever done any work for people on Amazon, like for Amazon store, or like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I recently had a project in which I had to do a whole listing for Amazon, main images and EBC content, for which I used Blender and CGI
Mm-hmm.
plus editing skills I had from before.
Nice. Okay, Tamur, I got a question for you, bro. A
Mhm.
lot of people on Amazon are still using photographs versus
Mm,
we're using CGI for all of our clients. So,
Yeah,
is there a visual difference between CGI and product photography?
I would say there is a considerable difference if you, let's say, compare two images of, let's say, the last listing I did was of a chain. So if you zoom into a photograph, it will blur out.
Hmm.
And in comparison, if you look at a 3D render, you can get very micro details of the chain.
Hmm.
Even if you zoom out, it won't be pixelated at all. Can
Mhm.
be high definition. You can infinitely zoom in.
Hmm.
That's one of the things.
So, what you're basically saying is a camera can take a picture onto a certain resolution. Let's say it can take a 4K, 6K, or an 8K image. But with 3D,
Yeah.
you're able to get more than 16K. That's what you're trying to
Yeah,
say.
and basically infinite resolution.
So,
Hmm.
Tamur, just besides that, um, how much does it affect the sales? I mean, obviously, visuals are the main selling point on Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, it totally changes a listing. If you look at sellers who are using photographs, they're using moderate photographs. If you switch to CGI, it completely changes the look of the whole listing, and sales will increase as well, obviously.
I totally get what you're trying to say, Mr. Tamur. And the thing is, one of our team members, Mubashir over here, you know this better than I do. He
Mhm.
always gets like Amazon listings for his
Yeah.
work. And a lot of the time, people are really confused. They're like, okay, do I need to send the product over to you so you can get the photographs? So, how do you feel when you get these sort of messages?
Yeah, it makes me chuckle because you don't have to send a product most of the time. What we do is we look at images of the product from different angles and
Hmm.
recreate the 3D model
Hmm.
of it in any 3D software. We use Blender, but it doesn't really matter which software we're using.
Hmm.
So we recreate the thing exactly one on one in the 3D software and texture it as accordingly,
Hmm.
placing materials that match the product and
Hmm.
rendering it.
Okay, I got a question for you, Mr. Taimur. A lot of people always compare like, okay, Maya is the best, 3D Max is the best, Blender is the best, C4D is the best. What's your unbiased opinion about Blender?
Blender is shit.
Okay.
But since we have moved to Blender Octane, it's a lot better compared to Blender Cycles because you get a lot more options in there, and
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's as good as industry standard software like C4D and
Mm.
what are the other ones? C4D and
I
Maya.
mean, yeah, you have Maya, you have 3D Max, and you
Yeah,
also have
3D is Maya.
C4D. And
Yeah.
there's also another software, but we don't talk about that. That's too scary. Houdini.
I'm starting to learn Houdini.
No way, man.
Yep.
So, okay, you're getting into Houdini. Okay, got a question for you. You just told me you're switching to Blender Octane, right?
Yeah, we've
What?
already switched.
Oh, what made you make the decision to go to Blender Octane?
Since Octane is a widely used render engine across the world and the whole industry uses it,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot more realistic than default Blender cycles,
Mm.
and you get a lot better results, especially for products with it.
Mm-hmm. So, just brief this to the audience. How much important is a render engine when it comes to your work, especially in 3D?
Okay, it all comes down to the artist. The render engine does not really matter that much,
Mm-hmm.
but the higher end render engines such as Octane, V-Ray, and Arnold, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
those
there's also
ones.
one other we're missing out, Redshift.
Yeah, Redshift. These ones are the top of the line. So you get realistic results out of the box. You don't have to work around
Hmm.
and do tiny little things, tricks to get realistic results.
Is it because these are unbiased render engines as compared to Cycle being a biased render engine?
Probably, I don't really know the difference between biased and unbiased,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah.
And what are your thoughts about Unreal Engine? I mean, it's getting a lot of hype nowadays, especially after the Nanite update.
It's really good for real-time rendering. Like compared to Eevee, the
Mhm.
Blender's real-time render engine, it's much better. The Unreal Engine's Lumen is a lot better than Eevee, but if you're looking for realistic, photorealistic renders, I would not recommend Unreal Engine.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Unreal Engine also has its path tracing, if I'm not wrong.
Hmm.
Do you know about that?
Yeah, I've used it as well, but I did not like it as much as Blender.
Are we specifically talking about that you like Blender or you like Blender Octane?
Both, because I'm able to produce good results in Blender cycles as well,
Hmm.
but I still prefer Octane.
Nice, very nice. So, what was the turning point that got you into like Octane? Like,
Yeah, I
what made
was
you abandon Cycles? That's what I'm trying to ask.
doing one-on-one comparisons between Octane and cycles. It's a lot easier to achieve realistic results in Octane,
Okay,
and its principal shader is much better.
okay. Just for the audience's comparison, here are the renders. This one's rendered in Cycles, and this one is rendered in Octane. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
I mean, it has a striking difference, I must say that. So, how was the learning curve? Like switching from one render engine to another one? What was the whole journey? Could you tell that? Because I'm getting
It
interested now.
wasn't It wasn't too tough because I've already used Blender for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
almost 3 years for now.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things were new, but most of it was similar to cycles.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, this is really interesting, man. And if someone wants to start Blender, let's say there's a 13 to 15-year-old kid who's just completing his 10th grade and he's willing to go to college, and he discovers Blender. What sort of advice would you give him
Mhm.
or her? Not assuming any genders, by the way. Please don't
I
cancel
would
me.
say I would say just try different things, not just Blender, different skills, and try what you find interesting and fun
Hmm.
and explore. I would just say explore.
So previously you mentioned that you had to learn a lot of different skills just to get into freelance, right?
Yeah.
So if we put those skills up front, how much did that shape you as a 3D artist?
Hmm. Most of those were hard skills like drop shipping,
Mm-hmm.
FB ads, um, game development.
Mm-hmm.
So not much related to 3D, but um, some of the soft skills did help me out in freelance,
Mm.
such as writing
Mm-hmm.
and image editing. Yeah, image editing.
Okay, talking about image editing, a lot of people on Amazon use it to edit their photographs. But the question is, do you use Photoshop to improve your 3D renders?
Absolutely.
What is the difference that you felt while editing a photograph versus editing a 3D render?
Hmm. I mean, editing a photograph, you don't have much control since everything is already shot. Versus when you're editing a 3D render, you
Mhm.
can get in Photoshop, and if you don't like the lighting or the angle of the product placement, you
Mhm.
can go back into Blender, change it, put it back into Photoshop, and then edit it.
Mm.
So it's a lot better. You have a lot more control.
Okay, so since you use Photoshop to edit all of your 3D renders, what does your workflow look like? What are the settings? I'm getting curious now.
Okay, so exporting from Blender using PNG,
Mm-hmm.
if we're talking about singular images,
Mm-hmm.
and importing into Photoshop and doing basic color correction and color grading using the camera filter,
Mm.
adding LUTs if needed, lookup tables,
Mm-hmm.
and adding text using trying different fonts and everything to
Mm.
design the image. If you're talking about a lifestyle or text-based image for e-commerce stores.
Nice, man, nice. And what about creative renders? How do you approach that?
Hmm. Creative renders, as in?
I mean, like where you have to design a whole set and then place a product over there with a specific sort of lighting.
So first, I look at a bunch of references on Pinterest or Behance to
Mm-hmm.
get an idea of what we're getting, what style we're getting looking to get into. And then I start off with designing the whole scene in Blender,
Mm-hmm.
the whole environment. Then placing the product and trying different angles to see which one would look the best.
Mm.
And adjusting lighting, textures, and everything. It's a whole process.
So, if someone wants to get into 3D, are there any tutorials that you would like to recommend?
I would recommend the donut tutorial by Blender Guru if you're just starting out. And if you're an intermediate artist, there's one tutorial, a course that I would like to recommend. It's a paid course, but it's highly valuable. That's the cinematic lighting in Blender by Creative Shrimp.
And also, Mr. Taimur, not a lot of people know about this, but you own Blender artwork. Could you tell a little bit about that?
I would like to keep it a secret, but okay. I started it as a Instagram theme page
Mm-hmm.
to share other artists' work. And it grew to over 100K followers. I don't know how.
Wait, what? literally you just made the
Yeah.
page and you just slept and you were like, 100K?
Nah, I had to post consistently for like 2-3 years.
Okay. So I got a question for you. What does it take to become a 3D artist? Especially in 2024.
I don't consider myself an artist,
Mm-hmm.
so I won't answer that.
Okay, what do you consider yourself?
An entrepreneur.
Well, Mr. Taimur, that was a lovely podcast. And if people want to follow you, where can they follow you?
You can check out my Instagram at Taimur3D.
Okay, so I'm gonna link your Instagram in the description as well, and also it's gonna be over here on the screen somewhere as well. Alrighty, bro. It's been nice having a conversation with you. And guys, this is just the beginning of the series of the podcast that Taimur and me are about to do. So we have a lot in store for you guys. So we'll see you in the next one.